Hello everybody and welcome back to Robert's Reviews. Before we get started, ignore this that's happening to my eye. I don't know how to explain it. I don't like it. Please ignore it. But today we are starting another episode where I talk about something I had to watch for school. So those of you guys who don't know, if you're new here, welcome. I'm going to college for media and stuff like that, and so I'm taking a really cool film class, and we had to watch this movie for that, and I review them because I might as well, right? I didn't know anything about this movie. I really had no clue. I just kind of sat down and started watching it, and it's a long movie. But let's go ahead and start talking about Do the Right Thing. Do the Right Thing was released in 1989 and was written and directed by Spike Lee. So I don't know a lot about Spike Lee, but I think that he's a very popular writer and director and probably actor, I think, in terms of nowadays at least. I don't know anything about him when he was younger at all. But I did know this was going to have something to do with racism and stuff like that, because we're kind of starting to talk about that in class and stuff like that. Not really in class, but we're getting to where it would be important to talk about that. In terms, so we're in the cinematography unit, so I'm not going to talk about what I thought about the cinematography about this movie in here probably, but I do think a lot of it does reflect the racism that is shown. So I'm assuming we're going to be talking about that during class. I will have already talked about it in class when this comes out. I'm filming this a week in advance, so we'll see how that goes. But yeah, for those of you who don't know what this movie's about, essentially it takes place in Brooklyn, and it is in a particular neighborhood that is, mostly black people. And essentially what happens is there's a pizzeria there, and it's owned by an Italian person, like most Italian restaurants. But it's in the black neighborhood, and then essentially he's kind of racist. The owner, right, Sal, he's kind of racist. And people are starting to notice, and they're starting to get really mad at him. There's a slow protest movement going, but Mookie works there, and he is a black kid, and he works there, and Sal really likes Mookie, and he's just working there to get some money, basically to help out with his girlfriend and his son that he has. But it takes place on the hottest day of the year, which doesn't really matter, I guess. I guess it matters a little bit, but not a whole lot. And essentially we just see the protest build and build and build to the end, and in the finale basically what happens is they burn down Sal's restaurant, and there's some cool characterization that happens at the end, right? Because, obviously Mookie should be mad at Sal because Sal did help with the mob of angry protesters, but then in the end of the movie the next day, he comes up and he's like, hey, where's my money? He wants to get paid for his work that he did yesterday. And, Sal gives it to him after a little bit of arguing. And then Mookie's like, thanks. And that's the whole thing. And it comes down to the fact that, in the end, they're both just people, right? And he's like, dude, I've still got to make a living. And it's almost like a mutual understanding there that, they can kind of work together and do stuff instead of, doing this weird thing. But when it comes to, rights and stuff, it doesn't matter who you're employed to, right? You can be employed at, say, I don't know, McDonald's, for instance, right? Because a lot of people work at McDonald's, like I do. If I were to be, at the end of the day, I need the job, right? I complain about the job a lot, I do. But at the end of the day, I need the job, right? If I was being, bullied and stuff like that, and I couldn't find another job, there's not really a whole lot you can do. You have to stay there. And I think that showing that there kind of helped a little bit. I don't think it's particularly... I don't know if that's necessarily the actual message of the film, but I think it is one that could be contrived by watching it. But overall, I think that the cinematography is really cool. I did like a lot of the shots in here. Particularly, they had some really cool Dutch angles that I wasn't really noticing until halfway through the film, and I was like, why are we looking at it like this? For those of you who don't know what a Dutch angle is, essentially, this would be considered a Dutch angle. Oh, whoa. Oh, it didn't move the camera. That wouldn't be a Dutch angle, I don't think. It's complicated. Essentially, if I cut this part of the screen out and you got to see just that, but it was tilted, that would be a Dutch angle. It might have actually worked when I tilted the camera. I don't know. I can't really see what I'm doing. I'm not sure. But if you're curious, look it up. Essentially, it's where you tilt and you're watching them like this. There were actually quite a few, considering it was a movie that I don't think necessarily needed Dutch angles, but I think it was pretty cool. I liked how they were used here, and I enjoyed watching that. Watching those particular scenes where where somebody's on the sidewalk and another person's in a house. They had that like tilty thing. It was pretty cool. I like Dutch angles. I like Dutch angles when they're used correctly. Dutch angles for the sake of having Dutch angles isn't very good. But overall, I think in terms of story, I didn't particularly like it. I can see how people can like it. I think it is objectively a good movie, right? Like, I can sit here and be like, wow, that was really cool. I liked how they did it, and still not like it. That's fine. I'm giving you my opinion on what I thought about the film. And I didn't particularly like it. I think it was a little long. I think that, like, literally, like, the first, like, 3/4 of the movie is all exposition. And it's all on characters that don't really matter. We don't even focus that much really on Mookie as much as I think we should. There's like 30 characters here, and like none of them really matter. So, in terms of plot, I should say. They're fun. They're cool characters, and I like them. I like a lot of the characters. But they weren't important to the plot, so it felt like I was just learning about them for almost no reason, except to just have more characters. Which some movies excel at that, and I don't think this is one of them that excelled at it. There are some movies where I'm like, oh, that was a really cool character. I liked getting to know that person, even though it had nothing to do with the plot. But this is one of the times I felt like it was almost a waste of time, in my opinion. Which is, it's normal, I think, for a lot of films to be not good at it. But, I mean, you're welcome to make your own opinion on that. I didn't particularly care about most of the story until the very end. I think the last quarter of the film is really, really awesome. I really liked the last quarter of the film. I liked a lot of the meaning behind it. I liked a lot of the cinematography, the acting. All that was really solid, particularly in the last quarter of the film. The first 3/4 of the film, a lot of it was kind of dry, and I was like kind of just waiting for more. But let's go ahead and talk about some acting. I'm not going to talk about all the actors because there's quite a few. I think most of them were fine. I want to talk about two of them. I'm going to talk about the two main actors. First, Spike Lee as Mookie. So Spike Lee does direct and write and star in this film. And I liked Mookie's character a lot. So he's basically just like he's almost a kid, he's like he's like my age sort of. And he's got a kid and he's got a girlfriend and he works at Sal's pizzeria. And what I think is kind of interesting about the character is that, like, you don't really know what his motives are, right? Like, he doesn't really act like he cares about his girlfriend or his son, but he says he does. And, like, I kind of think he does. I think he does actually care about his son and his girlfriend and stuff, but it doesn't really seem that way. It's kind of interesting, but I liked it. I think it was a cool, dynamic character. I just don't know exactly what his motives are. We can only speculate at this point. I think that Spike Lee did a good job. I don't think anyone else could have done that the way that he did. I think that it was really cool because he was able to. The way he talked was really entertaining, in my opinion. Like, in terms of what words he chose to use were really cool, in my opinion. I don't know why. It's complicated, but like I'd sit there and be like, oh, that was a really cool sentence. And like, it's weird. I don't understand. I liked it. I think he was really cool. I think he was probably the best part of this movie. I really enjoyed it. I think that Spike Lee has a really cool vision for this movie. I just don't think the movie was for me. Next, we have Danny Aiello as Sal. I feel like I've seen him in another movie or two. I'm not entirely sure, but I think I have. But he plays the Sal, so he owns the restaurant, the pizzeria. And his character is really fun and really cool, but I hate the guy. He's kind of the bad guy of the film. I didn't like his character in terms of, like, he's kind of mean. But I liked him in terms of that's a really cool, like, well-rounded character. Because he is racist, obviously, but he runs a restaurant in the middle of a black neighborhood. And he chooses to do that. He doesn't want to move anywhere else. But he hates being around the black people because he's racist. So we get that really fun balance. It's an awful balance, but we get that really fun balance between, like, is he actually racist? Why is he working here and not somewhere else? And there's a lot of really cool, like, back and forths we get there. And then, of course, it leads to the big finale where he beats up the radio and then gets caught on fire in his thing. He doesn't die, of course. He doesn't get caught on fire, but his house does, or his restaurant, I should say. I think it was a really, really cool character. I think it did have a really solid arc, because then at the end, of course, he's more understanding. I think he did learn a little bit about racism himself, which is cool. And I think that Danny Aiello was really, really cool in this, and I am excited to see more. I'm assuming he's in a lot. It seems like he's in a lot of stuff, so I think I'll be seeing him again in the future at some point. But overall, I don't think the movie was awful. I think objectively, the movie is good. Like, if I asked a random critic in the street, like, hey, what are your opinions on Do the Right Thing? And they'd be like, oh, it's really good. But if you asked me, and I'm not necessarily a film critic. I like to think that I critique films, but really it is just my opinion, my honest opinion, mixed in with some really fun facts. But my opinion on this movie, I think it deserves a B minus. I think it was a really cool idea. I like a lot of the characters. I like a lot of the movements in the cinematography. I just don't think the story itself was entertaining enough to catch my eye for 2 entire hours. But I think that's going to do it for me today. Thank you guys for watching. It is Saturday, so I appreciate you taking your time to do it. I do want to give a couple thanks. The channel has grown so much recently. I can't even put it into words how awesome it is. Overnight tonight when I filmed this a week ago on the day of the Golden Globes, we got 3 subscribers and a lot of watch time. We're at 1.3 thousand minutes of watch time, which sounds like a lot. It really isn't that much, but it's a lot considering I've only been doing this for under 6 months. It's insane. So thank you guys for your continued support. I really appreciate it. If you guys haven't subscribed, please consider doing so. A lot of people watching the videos aren't actually subscribed, so if you guys could do that, that'd be a huge, huge, huge help. We're really getting close to that 100 mark. If we're there by Saturday, that'd be really, really cool. If we're there by the time this drops and we're at 100, that'd be really, really cool. So thank you guys so much for your continued support. I really am having a great time doing this. I consider this almost a full-time job at this point, because I'm watching a 3-hour movie every day and then also watching a show in the meantime, so that way I have concert reviews for you guys. I am doing almost every day of the week now, which is getting kind of tiring, but I am enjoying it. There are days where I will take off. I don't think I have a review coming out tomorrow. There might be, but I don't know for sure. But thank you guys so much for doing that. I really appreciate it. It's been a fun ride so far, and let's keep this going. I mean, if I can keep doing this till the day I die, I will. I'm really having a great time. So thank you guys so much for doing that. And as always, keep watching movies and television. Stay educated, and I'll see you guys in the next video.